Hello, 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 beautiful soul. I'm so excited to introduce you to the Shekinah Spiral Series. The video that I'm doing right now in this introduction to you is about creating a sacred space for your sacred container. So each of us has the sacred container of our body for our soul. And when we create a sacred, soft, loving space for ourselves, it's so much easier to do transformative work. So I invite you to take some of the tips that I share in this video and make sure and create for yourself a sacred space for each time that you do one of these videos. In this video, I just want to explain a little bit of how this process works, what it's doing for your subconscious mind, how it's aligning all of your chakras with your 7 energetic bodies as well, and what that does for you as a whole being. One of the things that I've had a really strong passion for a long time is not just physical health, not just spiritual health, not just mental health, not just emotional health, but complete coherence and health in every part of the being. And when I started working on this series, really, I just wanted to create something beautiful. Something beautiful that would hold other people in love. And as I got into this and started doing it, I felt like it became so much more expansive because that was the creative place that I was coming from. And I want you to know that Source wants you to know you are sacred and precious and loved. And I hope through this whole process, you feel that. So my deepest wish is that you are supported in your transformative journey, that you are able to transform the dense programming of this dimension in this existence that started when we were tiny. Children start absorbing information about who they are and about the world. By the time they're 3, they have most of their beliefs already formed. And during that whole time, there's this brainwave that happens. It's the theta brainwave, and you're just absorbing everything in. But unfortunately, because only the emotional side of the brain is really fully developed at that point, and the logical linear side is not, you're not able to process what you need to process. And so this creates a really big disconnect, because sometimes in the world we see all these double standards and we see all of the negativity and all these things that happen, and we don't know how to make sense of them. And so we begin to form beliefs about all the input that came in, and those beliefs usually aren't quite correct. So this is a really big deal. I'm going to share one of my beliefs that I had growing up. So one of the things that happened when I was really little is my dad teased me about being an accident. It was interesting that as he said that, in my child brain, I thought I'm not supposed to be here, I was unwanted, and all these negative things about myself. And that led to me feeling like, okay, if I'm important, if I serve, if I'm a peacemaker, if I do this role in my family, and if I serve other people and do all these things, caretake everybody else and their emotions and hold space and listen and do all the things that everybody longs for, if I do all those things, then I have a right to be here. And if I'm essential, then I can stay and I can be a contributor. And then maybe I won't just be essential, maybe I actually be important. And so this driving force for me, it was so painful, and I didn't realize that was the thing that was driving the boat until 20 years of working on this work, hitting rock bottom at like 3rd time, and just feeling like, what is wrong with me? I'm the biggest freaking failure on the planet. And I had worked through all kinds of money beliefs and all kinds of subconscious beliefs about I'm not enough and I could never do enough, and all of these just huge things that so many people struggle from. And I still could not shift, and I was so frustrated, and to the point where I was utterly exhausted, lost my business of 7 years that I loved, and that I was passionate about. It was related to health and wellness, which was something I'd gone to school for. I felt like I was making a difference in people's lives. I'd even seen people who were my clients be able to get off of the liver transplant list. All these beautiful things happened, and yet everything fell apart. And it hurt. I was selling off personal items that I absolutely loved and selling those things to pay my staff as I closed the business down, and then even had to sell my horse, which was, I was there when he was born. I mean, it was a huge deal. I was devastated. And it all happened after I came back from Egypt, and I thought, oh, I have clarity and I know what I'm supposed to do, and I've got these great ideas, and I'm going to build the business up, and I'm going to sell it, and then I'm going to go do this healing temple thing, and had these huge plans, and then everything fell apart. And I just felt so defeated, and I was exhausted, and it took months for me to figure out that I wasn't a failure and that it was okay. Not only was it okay, but that process led me to finding the linchpin of negative beliefs that was holding me back, and that was that need to be essential to everybody else and denying everything that I needed. I was paying everybody else more. I was making sure everybody else was taken care of, and I was bottom of the rung. And my soul was like, no, I am done with that. My body was like, no, I am done with that. And so when I went through this really deep, dark night of the soul, so to speak, it took a while before I even felt like being creative or trying anything. And I was just so frustrated because I felt like I was relying on other people and trying to figure it all out, and going through a grieving process of this big transition. And then as I started to work through creativity, that's when my soul started to unlock those negative programming, and I started to work with this material that I have put in this series for you. And as I started to work with that material, my life started to really shift, and I realized that that was the driving thing that was driving me, was the absolute need to be essential. And when that happened, it was like a linchpin belief, and then it felt like internally my whole world that had been spinning stopped. I felt the swirling slowly stop, and then it felt like everything began to spin in a different direction. It was the wildest feeling. And I know that Carl Jung talks about that a bit in some of his work, that there's many of us who go through that. We've been on the dark night of the soul. It feels like our roots have gone down deep, but we haven't quite flourished or grown upwards. And I'm here to tell you that this video series is here to help unlock some of that stuff. And one of my biggest things that I've always thought would be really beautiful is to be able to help people not have to go through what I went through. Again, essentialism. However, what I learned is that I can give, but coming from a space that's not wounded, because I always wanted to come from love and from care to other people, but often I came from a wounded space in that love, and that was really, really difficult. And so what I needed was to be able to come from a more pure, undiluted, I should say, space. Not pure in the sense of like sin or bad, but just undiluted, and more from the very depth of presence, with my soul being deeply embodied in my body. So that's what this was born for. And I feel like this series is really helpful, because a lot of us don't realize that the stress that we go under because of our negative beliefs, because of all that's going on the outside, all the negative programming, these wild frequencies that we get hit with, it does a number on the body. And this video series helps align the body, the emotional body, your mental body, all of it, so that there's a lot less stress and resistance. And that's like taking the brakes off of your life and being able to propel you forward. So I'm really excited for you to be able to walk on through this journey. And I'm going to switch just a little bit from that into how this is going to work and some of the things that we're going to use as tools to help unlock this with you and to give you more freedom and more radiance. Because all of us, we're radiant beings, but we've just had so much programming that it was like dirt thrown on us, and we haven't been able to get that dirt off. Well, this is just like taking a frequency and shaking it all off to where it's no longer, we're shining and we're radiant. So that's what this is about. I feel like when you use this video series, it acts like an intricate and beautiful instruction manual for you to align your 7 chakras and your 7 energy bodies so you're in coherence with your source blueprint, not the old programming that the world uses to keep you stuck. And as we're going through this, it reminds me a lot of those puzzles you see in videos or movies where they're like a scroll and there's sections, and each section has a bunch of letters, and you have to line them up a certain way, and then they have a certain message, and then they unlock, right? It's like that. This series is like a key code showing you what has to line up and how to line it up, and then boom, there's coherence between all of your different parts of your being. So many people don't even realize all of the different aspects that are vital to their life. And so I'm really excited to share all that with you. I think you're going to not just learn a lot, but feel supported and feel more whole than you've ever felt. So let's dig in a little bit into how we're going to do this. A lot of you have full-time jobs, so I know that time and energy is in short supply, and you need to be able to have something that works the first time. And this is something that you can use again and again for other things. Let's say you start using it because you want to work on your weight, and you're realizing that your mind and your body aren't connected because maybe you've been through trauma. You can use it any type of healing, really. Abundance healing. I call it the Shekinah Spiral because Shekinah is the gentle, nurturing presence of Source. It's the divine feminine radiant energy that lives inside and around us. It's a birthing energy, it's a supportive energy, it's a nurturing energy, and it's a loving energy. So this series will nurture your coherent state and help you release what's no longer serving you. It's kind of like new sacred technology specifically for our time, and it helps you change and grow without pushing and struggling. It simply aligns you back into coherence, and that in itself transforms patterns and blockages just like it did for me. So each of the videos expands on the previous, but is also powerful as a standalone video. So they're exactly 55 minutes and 5 seconds, symbolically, because 5 is the number of transformation and change. Compassion is brought up quite a bit in this video series because compassion does so much more than you ever realize. Compassion actually brings the right and left hemispheres of your brain into coherence and alignment. A lot of people don't realize that it's compassion is the thing that actually pulls that together. Compassion is also something that we can use as a healing tool for our inner child, that inner wounded part of us that is not on board with sometimes change that we want to make because it's too scared. It's simply trying to protect us. So when you bring compassion into your inner world, it does more than just heal. It phase locks or locks into place the right and left brain hemispheres. It bridges the emotional and logic into coherence. And this allows you to move through the world without distortion. Like negative programming and news, other people's opinions, all of that, what you feel like are judgments and boundaries that you're not holding for yourself, all of that can begin to fall away. And compassion really does change everything. This is going to transform your inner pain into peace and your outer interactions into coherence. And I'm really excited for you because you're going to find a whole new way of living that feels and works better for you. All right, so as each of the 7 layers align, you'll find your frustration levels lowering, and things will begin to feel like water, like they flow with ease and grace, and you won't need to push, you won't need to force yourself or do it all with discipline. That was my big one, another big one. So you may have been to counseling, coaching, you may have been seeking for years, and those are such beautiful tools. I'm a life coach. I don't poo-poo any of that. It's so beautiful. But lately I've been feeling like we need some technology sacred technology that's birthed from love that helps us plow through some of that a little bit faster and in a gentle, gentle way, because we are literally in the middle of ascension and it's happening. So anyway, I had a lot of small victories in my path to this. I would take a class, like I took Kate Northrup's class on money safety, and that helped. I took Morgana Ray's. I had a life coach for a long time, and there were still so many beautiful things, but I think Source was like, we're going to hold that linchpin for this series so that it could be unlocked and I could come into the series in full confidence knowing that this works and it's a beautiful, gentle, flowing way to make change. So the tools that we're going to use for this are as follows. We're going to use specific Hertz frequencies. What I've finally really began to understand and grasp is everything has frequency. Everything has a tone of some kind. Everything is made of sound and geometry. And even every one of our chakras has their own frequency that they respond to, that they are naturally aligned with. And when you can use that frequency, it will help activate and stabilize that chakra. So for example, 396 is for liberation of guilt and fear. So when we use the frequency of 396 on the lowest chakra, that frequency begins to remove patterns of guilt and fear. These are the root of emotional density. This frequency dissolves those subconscious barriers. And then we're going to use 417, which undoes situations and facilitates change. It breaks up crystallized emotional patterns. We now know that our emotions actually leave molecules in the body. The molecules actually can disrupt the body. And what we want to do is break that crystallized emotional pattern up so we're not stuck. I love that. Yeah, so the book that I was referring to about that our feelings aren't just thoughts, they're real molecules that affect our cells is by Dr. Candace Pert, and it's called Molecules of Emotion. So we want to be able to break those things up and have freedom again and not feel stuck in whatever it is that we're going through. And then we're going to transition to 528 hertz, which is related to the solar plexus. It's the original frequency that humans were attuned to, and we'll use the rest all the way on up to the chakra system. And that's your energy system. We're also going to use sacred geometry because, and I love this example, sacred geometry is like a secret map. I've always loved like treasure hunting and the thought of like going and finding a treasure. Well, sacred geometry is a secret map for your mind. It uses shapes to help you unlock new ways of thinking and feeling. That's pretty exciting because that piece right there, sometimes we can spend a lot of time trying to fix what's going on in the brain, and this just kind of does it subtly and easily without all those years and years and years of work. We're going to use specific crystals. So the use of crystals has been around for centuries. In fact, when I was in Egypt, I had memories of crystals and working with crystals, and I felt like they were old friends. I remember just being like touching them when I was there and tearing up because they hold energy and they hold memory and they do so much for us, but we don't realize it because in our society we forget that everything is energy and frequency. So the use of crystals, like I said, has been around a really long time. My first experience with crystals was a friend of mine had purchased a gift for me, and I had to go pick it up, and it was in the crystal shop. And I walked past the selection of a particular crystal, and I instantly felt this like blanket of warm love. And it was so distinct and so beautiful that I started tearing up and crying right there in the store. And I was mad at myself, like, what are you doing? You're a logical person. What is going on here? And I was all upset with myself about it. And then I went up to the counter to talk to the attendant, to the person that was checking everybody out. And I said, I don't know what this is. Can you tell me? I had this experience where I walked by it, and all of a sudden I just felt this warm blanket of love, and I just felt fully surrounded. And can you tell me what this is and what it means? And he said, yeah. He goes, that's a celestite, and it's symbolic of an angel hug. And I just, of course it did. Of course it was. I was ready to cry all over again. So that was my first experience, and of course I purchased that piece of celestite, and since then have gotten a collection of different pieces that I absolutely love, usually things that just I feel drawn to, or that I feel like are part of my mission or my story, right? So it's really fun. One of my really close friends, after I came back from Egypt, she gave me this beautiful Lemurian crystal. And I had been really resonating with stories of Lemuria, remembering some things about past lives in Lemuria. And I had no idea she was going to give this to me. And when she handed it to me, I felt like it was buzzing and talking to me. And it's just been one of my favorite pieces. So everything's energy, right? And that energy is talking to your energy, and it can stabilize. And we'll go into here in a couple seconds about all the different things that crystals will do. So crystals are like energetic microphones. They can amplify your feelings and intentions. So if you think about how a microphone, when you sing into it or speak into it, it takes your voice and it expands it out into the world, into the space. Crystals do really similar things. They can amplify healing frequencies. Some of them are very protective. Basically, they're living conscious geometry, frozen light, if you think about it, that can stabilize, amplify, and reflect your field. I love that. I just think that's so beautiful. They provide visual and energetic anchors, tangible symbols for each layer of being in the chakra. There is a specific crystal for each layer. They allow you to visually and energetically connect with the concepts that we're going to be talking about. And they act as a field of stabilization. So you have a field that is like your energetic or electric field, your Taurus field that comes from your heart, and it literally goes out. And so do I. And as we are interacting with these videos, this helps us stabilize and phase lock our fields so that you can hear my voice and feel my heart and the frequencies that I'm sharing from this. That's pretty exciting. So I think of them as friends in this work. Now, if you don't have a lot of money and you don't feel like going down and buying some, you can usually get them in sets. One of my first sets that I got was this one, and it's the full chakra set, and it's got each chakra. Like here's the amethyst for your third eye chakra. Here's the quartz crystal for your crown chakra. So each of these, what I'm trying to communicate is you can get whole sets of them, and they're really, really beautiful. I like the raw ones myself, but I have plenty of ones that are not raw as well. But it's nice to have the chakra set on hand for use, because you'll want to use that, hold it, when you're working on a specific chakra. And this is very beneficial for your energy bodies. We're also going to use breath work. Specific breath work techniques can really calm your nervous system. This part of your body that controls how safe or stressed you feel is your nervous system. And your nervous system does a lot more than that, obviously. It's full communication between your body, your emotions, every part of your body, up and down the spine, telling the brain what's going on, what feels painful, what feels good. But when our nervous system is calm, then our immune system can work. But when our nervous system isn't under stress or repression or frustration, it can't work properly. And so we're going to use specific breath work, and I'm going to teach you breath work that you can use even throughout your day to bring yourself back to the coherent, calm space. And this is going to help your immune system stay engaged more often and longer and enhance your health. And then there's other breathing that we can use besides ones that stabilize your emotions and stabilize your body. There's other breathing that we can use to cleanse and energize. A lot of people don't realize there's specific breathwork techniques that when you do them, especially what we call fire breathing can really energize your body, and it acts kind of like a fire, burning out things that you don't need. So we've been taught in our society to rush, produce, hustle, grind, and this leads to frequent shallow breathing. And shallow breathing tells the body it's not safe. So the immune system can't turn on, it can't repair, it can't protect. The body really requires a specific pH balance in order to stay healthy. When it's in the specific pH balance of slightly alkaline, it is very healthy. When we're under a lot of stress and our pH balance is off, that's when we're more prone to a lot of other diseases. So this is also going to help with that whole system. The breath work. We're going to use movement and body work. You may be encouraged to move your body at times, help stuck energy move, or reconnect you with your body. So for example, a hand on the heart can quickly help you tap into the power of your amazing heart and aid in faster alignment. Heart and brain coherence is already known to be a powerful tool in helping you navigate your intuition and guidance. I may encourage you to speak to your body. I know that sounds crazy, but there's recent research that I found so fascinating. And that research said when you talk to your body about how you appreciate how it's working, and thank you, heart, for all that you do for me, and thank you, immune system, for keeping me healthy. When you talk to your body, it's as effective in the same amount of time as a bunch of supplements. And it's free. You don't have to pay yourself, well, I guess you could, to actually talk to your body. But your body will respond. Talk lovingly to it. It listens more than you know. In fact, a lot of times diseases and illnesses are when we've been talking negatively to our body or negatively to ourselves, and it shows up in our body. It's interesting. I have a family member who had to carry a lot of weight for her family her whole life, and now she's having problems with her arms. These are not coincidences. These are our body listening to what's going on and to what happened and responding. So we want to get all that into alignment in a healthy place together. So it's really important to speak to it as lovingly, speaking compassion to it. You know, if you're overweight, instead of shaming yourself, saying, you know, body, I understand that you had to expound on the outside because you knew I needed protection. My soul needed protection on the inside. Thank you for protecting me, but now I don't need it. You know, just gently walk your body through these things. And it does seem too good to be true, but it is really powerful, and it shifts energies on multiple levels. I'm going to use visual artwork to cue emotional releases and breath work. I've got special sigils, and they are designed specifically to help shake things loose and prepare your mental, emotional, and physical body for new alignments. I use nature scenes to foster connection to source and all that is and enhance your radiance. Nature with negative ions, especially at waterfalls and around trees, it's incredibly healing and it reduces pain. And this is why we need to be out in nature. Sometimes I know that's difficult. I live in the Pacific Northwest and we can have a lot of snow, but it's still really important. And water as a symbol can really help move stuck energies as well. I'm also going to use light codes in Hebrew letters, numbers, and symbols. So sprinkled throughout this series are symbols, language, codes that unlock your subconscious mind, reprogram it, and spark change. And I'll use some light language as needed or as I feel my soul asking for it. And I love light language because it's intuitive vocal expression, and yet gentle and profound shifts can bypass the analytic mind and speak directly to the body and the soul. And it's also called tone weaving, and it's really remembrance. It's a reawakening of ancient ways of healing through sound, resonance, and frequency, especially for those whose voices were silenced. Light language can really unlock that and bring healing to that silenced feeling, that part of us that feel like we have to be silenced. It can really change that. Light codes are in the Codex Energy Center blueprint or instruction manual. Light codes are not just symbols. They're invisible messages made of shapes and sound. When your mind and body are calm, they can read these messages and unlock memories or insights. In music, Harmonics are like soft, higher notes that appear when a string of voices vibrate just right and they create that really beautiful ethereal sound. Well, light codes kind of work like that, but with energy and awareness. Light codes are encoded frequencies that activate your field when your field reaches a certain level of coherence. Okay, they often appear as sacred geometry, fractal patterns, or as symbolic glyphs. And they're like field-based QR codes. When your awareness scans them through visual or mental or resonance, they unlock memory structures and bring in emotional coherence. So some examples of that are like the Shekinah Spiral. When you see that picture of it in that spiral, it gives you a visual symbol for the divine feminine radiance within. Another example is the heart's torus field, and even Hebrew letters themselves act in that way. Each symbol is a standing wave of intention. It holds a memory that can be activated through focus, breath, and sound. You don't have to understand all this to benefit deeply, but here's the gist. They help phase lock, and they act as tuning forks for your awareness, and when you engage with them, they help phase lock your field. They bypass the limits of language and allowing direct field-to-field transmission, and they anchor your new coherence. So when you're feeling that new sense of peace and that new sense of expansiveness, they anchor it in. And they bridge dimensions, so they allow your awareness to move from the physical, emotional, mental field dimensions without distortion. So Hebrew letters are also light codes. They're light-coded symbols. They correspond with a frequency, a number, and a sacred geometric form. This is why they're included in a lot of the artwork in this series. They can be used in sigils, breath work, or sound activation to unlock specific memory fields. And they're like tuning forks that unlock memory, insight, and emotional alignment across the 7 levels. There's a lot more I could go over about that, but I have a companion guide that I've given out for you, and that will cover that in more depth. Just a little disclaimer, Hebrew is being used in this context not as religion, not as associated with Judaism, but as an ancient language that has a lot of creative power. And I invite you to engage with these tools through the lens of personal resonance, not identity with a particular religion. So there are specific terms and concepts that you might want to know. We talked earlier about the Codex being like a secret map, a treasure map, or instruction manual. And basically, it's an instruction manual for how everything works, from your thoughts to the stars. It shows how everything is built from sound, shapes, and breath, or frequency. Shekinah is the name we give to the shield inside that sacred fullness of awareness and radiance that stabilizes your energy field and helps you return to peace. We also talk about coherence as when all parts of your body, your thoughts, feelings, and body are aligned and vibrating in harmony, like a tuning fork or a wave that's perfectly in sync. For example, when you play the piano flawlessly without hitting any funny notes, it's all harmony within itself. We're going to transmute density into radiance. Think of ancient alchemy of turning lead into gold, fear into clarity, and pain into wisdom. We're also going to use the word monad. It's a really interesting word that I kind of was like, that's such a weird word to me. It took a little while for me to get used to. It's a Gnostic word that ancients used for the sacred center of your being, that first spark of source, the divine light that lives inside of you. And it kind of reminds me of the Allspark in the Transformer movies. I really loved those movies for whatever reason, even though they're kind of man movies. But even a sliver, a tiny bit of that Allspark had the exact same power that the huge block of it did, the creative power. Pretty amazing. And we're going to talk about field coherence, and that's your vibe. That's when everything's in alignment and you have this energy signature. When that field coherence is happening, people around you will feel calmer, at ease, and even your presence becomes a healing wave. Preparing to receive from each episode. As you navigate this material, it's beneficial for you to create a space that you love to be in. So I created a space here that I absolutely love that has like kind of a Lemurian feel with like soft aquas that remind me of the water and purples that remind me of when the sun's going down at night, and just colors that feel really relaxing to my soul. So I really encourage you, when you're doing this kind of work, put your body in a space that feels really comfortable and safe. You can get soft blankets. I've got one of those right now. And this helps your body, your foundational level of existence in this plane, which is your body, open to receive whatever living transmission comes through for your specific needs. For example, sit in your favorite chair. Incorporate anything that enhances feelings of safety, softness, like gentle candlelight, super soft blankets, whatever helps you sink into your body and helps you create an environment that's safe enough for transformation. And gather your crystals. I gave a crystal guide out, a PDF, and it will go over all the crystals you want for each session. There's also a thing in there, if you don't have money to go get crystals, what you can do in place of to kind of help cue your mind and your brain and your body without them. And have clean filtered water available. This is one of my favorite things because we now know that water holds consciousness. If you follow the works of Beta Austin or Dr. Emoto, whose works were at one time posted in the city of Portland, they were everywhere. They both have shown people what water does, how beautiful of an energy it is. And I'm crazy about it. It's magical. So after creating your sacred sanctuary, press play and enjoy. And remember, along the way, self-compassion is your beloved companion on this journey. If there's something in the process that feels a bit technical, or maybe you don't quite understand it, I want you to just stop in that moment and go, okay, I'm going to compassion myself right now. I don't quite get this concept, and it's totally okay. I don't need to right now. Because when it's time for you to grasp it, you will, but it's still going to work even if you don't quite understand every part of it. So this process is meant to honor your sovereign soul. It supports your sovereign soul. It takes away the old, gross, disgusting program that we've had, the programs that we've had thrown at us about we're not worthy and all the yucky things. And it really helps you align back into your true blueprint of your divinity and love and your radiance. So that's what this is doing, is holding that space for you and helping you realign into your sovereignty. Okay? So your soul is the true compass of your journey. I also included a little guide that you can look at where you can ask your soul and your chakra system if you're ready for the next video. And you'll feel it because we're going to train you to begin to feel the different things in your different chakra systems. So my deepest desire is that with each video you feel profoundly loved, cherished, expansive, and in deeper harmony with your soul self. Eventually, emotionally alchemizing your stuck feelings with compassion will become instinctual as you remember who you truly are. And I trust this series will support the integration of your soul's purpose in becoming radiant and fully you. So let's get to the first video.